Criminal Law Book 1. Okay? SE number 66 yung ating self-evaluation na ating bibigyan ng kasagutan. Ayan. So, let's start. Question number 1. Which of the following has the power to define and punish crime? Letter A, the legislative. Letter B, chief executive. Letter C, Supreme Court. And letter D, trial courts. Okay, the correct answer here is letter A, the legislative. Okay, kasi sila naman ang tagagawa ng batas. Okay, so number 2, which of the following is not a limitation on the power of the legislative to enact penal laws? I would like to italize the word not a limitation. Okay, letter A, prohibition against Bill of Attainders or ex post facto law. Letter B, equal protection of the law. Letter C, prohibition against cruel, degrading, or inhuman punishment or imposition of excessive fines. Or letter D, abridgment of the obligation of contract. Okay, so the correct answer here is letter D. So letter D is not included among the limitations of the legislative to enact penal laws. Question number 3. Which of the following is a crime malum in se? Okay. Which of the following is a crime malum in se? Letter A, offenses punished by the Revised Election Code. Letter B, illegal possession of firearms. Letter C, violation of BP 22 for issuing a bouncing check. Letter D, offenses defined and punished by the Revised Penal Code. The correct answer here is letter D. Yan, malum in se is punishable by the Revised Penal Code. Number 4, an act or omission punishable by the Revised Penal Code is specifically called letter A, crime, letter B, misdemeanor, letter C, offense, or letter D, felony. The correct answer is letter D. Number 5. This implies motion. It is the moving power which impels one to do an act. Letter A, intent. Letter B, motive. Letter C, opportunity. Or letter D, desire. Okay, the correct answer here is motive. And that is the moving power which impels one to do an act. In violation of statute prohibiting performance of a specific act or acts constituting a crime. Letter A, malum in se. Letter B, misdemeanor. Letter C, malum prohibitum. Or letter D, felony. The correct answer for number 6 is malum prohibitum. Okay, this is an special law prohibiting a particular act constituting a crime. Okay, number 7, limitations on the power of Congress to enact penal law except letter A, must be general in application. Letter B, must not partake of the nature of an ex post facto law. Letter C, must not partake of the nature of a Bill of Attainders. Or letter D, must impose cruel and unusual punishment or excessive fines. Okay, so the answer here is letter D, must impose cruel and unusual punishment or excessive fines. So, supposed to be ang wordings dito sa letter D is must not impose, okay? Because not is missing, so therefore this is already the exemption among the limitations on the power of Congress to enact penal laws. Number 8, characteristics of criminal law, which means that the criminal law of the country governs all persons within the territory regardless of the race, belief, sex, or creed. Letter A, generality. Letter B, territoriality. Letter C, prospectivity. Or letter D, reprieve. The correct answer here is generality. Yeah, that is the characteristics of criminal law which governs all persons within the country regardless of their race, belief, sex, or creed. Number 9. Whenever a penal law is to be construed or applied, and the criminal law admits of two interpretations, one lenient to the offender and the one strict to the offender, that the interpretation which is lenient favorable to the offender will be adopted. So this is the principle of letter A, malum nolo crimen, nola pena sine lihe. Letter B, doctrine of pro reo. Letter C, actus non facit reum nisi min sed rea. Or letter D, utilitarian theory. The correct answer here is doctrine of pro reo. Yan. So if the criminal law admits two interpretation, one lenient to the offender, one strict to the offender, the one that will going to follow is the law which is lenient to the offender. Ang tawag natin sa doktrina na yan ay doctrine of pro reo. Number 10. Moral trait of the offender is not considered. It is enough that the prohibited act was voluntarily done. Letter A, malum in se. Letter B, misdemeanor. Letter C, malum prohibitum. Or letter D, felony. Okay? Moral traits of the offender is not considered. This is the crime malum prohibitum. Okay? So the correct answer for number 10, I should say, is letter C. Number 11. Refers to the application of the Revised Penal Code outside the Philippine territory. Letter A, intraterritorial. Letter B, extraterritorial. Letter C, an ex post facto law. Or letter D, Bill of Attainders. Pag sinabi nating Bill of Attainders, ladies and gentlemen, we are referring to law that provides punishment even without trial. It is one of the limitations of Congress to enact penal laws. But in question number 11, referring to the application of the criminal law outside the Philippine territory. So, the correct answer here is letter B, extraterritorial. Number 12. Revised Penal Code Article 2 makes it clear that it does not refer only to Philippine archipelago but also includes the atmosphere, interior water, and maritime zone. Take note the word interior water kasama yan. So letter A, intraterritorial application. Letter B, extraterritorial application. Letter C, an ex post facto law application. Or letter D, Bill of Attainders. The correct answer for number 12 is letter B. Number 13. Is illegal possession of bladed weapon a felony? Letter A, yes, it is punishable under the Revised Penal Code. B, yes, it is prohibited by law. Letter C, no, it is not under the Revised Penal Code. Or letter D, all of them might be correct. Okay, so the correct answer here is no. Letter C, it is not under the Revised Penal Code. Number 14. A passenger in a jeepney seated in front of a lady started putting out his tongue suggesting lewdness. Which of the following is correct? Letter A, crime is committed, that is already an act in contemplation of criminal law. Letter B, there was no crime committed, mere imagination, no matter how wrong, does not amount to a felony. The correct answer here is letter A. Okay? Putting out your tongue is already an act that is prohibited by law if it suggests lewdness. Number 15. That means that if an A.Prohibition is punished under the Revised Penal Code, a felony is already committed. A, true. B, false. C, may be true. D, may be false. The correct answer here is true. Okay? It does not mean that if an A.Prohibition is punished under the Revised Penal Code, a felony is already committed. Yes, because there are sometimes, even if it is punishable under the Revised Penal Code, if it is not by means of dolo or culpa, hindi pa rin ito considered as felony. Next, number 16. Blank is deliberate intent, otherwise referred to as criminal intent. It must be coupled with freedom of action and intelligence on the part of the offender as to the act done by him. Letter A, culpa. Letter B, dolo. Letter C, motive. Or letter D, desire. Take note the word deliberate intent. So the correct answer here is dolo. Okay? Otherwise known as deceit. Okay, number 17. Between dolo and culpa, the distinction lies on the criminal intent and criminal negligence. Okay? If any of these requisites is absent, there can be no dolo nor culpa. When there is no dolo or culpa, a felony cannot arise. A, true. B, false. C, may be true. Or letter D, may be false. The correct answer here is letter A, true. Number 18. In criminal law, it comprehends the concurrence of freedom of action, intelligence, in the fact that it was intentional. Letter A, voluntariness. Letter B, rational. Letter C, negligence. Or letter D, punishment. The answer here is letter A, voluntariness. 19. Two persons went wild boar hunting. Upon getting to the place, they saw something moving. They shot. Unfortunately, the bullet ricocheted, killing Pedro. Which of the following is correct? Letter A, they are criminally liable for the death of Pedro. Letter B, since there was neither dolo nor culpa, there is no criminal negligence. The correct answer is letter B. There was no dolo or culpa in the situation because it is only a matter of accident. Hindi naman ito sinadya at hindi naman sila negligent sa pangyayaring yan. Therefore, no criminal liability is committed. Okay? Number 20. Accused had an altercation with X. X snatched the bolo from the accused. To prevent X from using his bolo on him, accused tried to get it from X. Upon pulling it back toward him, he hit someone from behind, instantly killing the latter. Letter A, liable for negligence. Letter B, not liable, it is by mere accident. Okay? The correct answer here is letter B. Okay? The accused is not liable. Pulling it back toward him, the bolo is not considered as a felony. Killing the latter as a result of which is only by mere accident. Okay? Number 21. May a crime be committed without criminal intent? A, yes. B, no. C, maybe yes. C, D, maybe no. The correct answer is yes. Even though there is no criminal intent, the accused may also be considered as criminally liable because of, sometimes we call it negligence. Yan. So the answer for number 21 is yes. 22. This is demonstrated by the use of a particular means to bring about a desired result. It is not a state of mind or a reason for committing a crime. Letter A, motive. Letter B, desire. Letter C, intent. Or letter D, intelligence. Okay? The correct answer here is intent. Okay? Letter C. 23. To overcome intelligence as an element of criminal liability, one has to prove letter A, deprivation of cognition, letter B, under the compulsion of an irresistible force, letter C, mistake of fact, or letter D, mistake of identity. The correct answer here is letter A, deprivation of cognition. 24. In mala prohibita, the criminal liability of the offender is determined by his, letter A, criminal intent, letter B, intent to perpetrate the act, letter C, negligence, lack of foresight, or lack of skill, letter D, ignorance of the law. Or the correct answer here is letter B, intent to perpetrate the act. Next, number 25. What is meant by the term mens rea? Letter A, no intent to commit so grave a wrong. Letter B, good faith in the commission of the crime. Letter C, no malice in committing the crime. Or letter D, unlawful intent. The correct answer here is letter D. Ayan. So, muli, maraming salamat. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat.